The perfect pow turn is just almost like white static. It almost doesn't have a sound to it at all.
It's a bit cliche to say, but it feels like you're floating.
It's really a feeling thing.
You're always looking for that feeling, no matter where you are on the mountain. You're trying to find that floaty spot.
It's honestly the best part about snowboarding.
Every time there's a powder day, I think that's the best day of my life. And then another one will come and that will be the best day of my life.
Those days are more about not so much the depth of the snow, but the quality of the snow, the board you're riding, and the people you're with.
2 feet, 3 feet of really good snow, and I'll be happy to ride anywhere. On the days that you do have that 2 to 3 feet, those perfect conditions, board selection is key. There's nothing worse than on a really deep day, just tunneling through POW, not floating, not being able to crank turns when it's just too deep and you don't have the float.
And whether that is float from the shape or float from the length, you just want that thing to float and stay on top of the snow and be fast.
You can certainly ride a custom, you can ride a process, you can ride a feel-good, you can ride a talent scout in just about any snow condition out there, but it's not the ideal shape for that.
Before any of the POW shapes came out, you would take your bindings and you'd set them as far back as you possibly could, or you'd upsize and try to get it to float.
Over time, a lot has changed, and the fish kind of like led the way. And I remember 20 years ago, people were like, that looks so weird, but you'd ride it in powder and be like, huh, this is amazing.
On POW days, your back leg doesn't have to burn. The beauty of these shapes is that you can go out and have a performance board that's designed for the riding that you're doing. You don't have to do the work, the board does it for you.
If you're looking for a board for free riding or powder or split boarding, you don't have to go anywhere else. You can go right to Family Tree. In general, most boards that ride powder better than other boards, it comes down to like the nose length on the board, the tail length on the board, and the amount of taper.
Taper is essentially when you have a wider nose than the tail, and a narrower tail is going to drop into the snow, and a wider nose is going to have more surface area for float.
If you think of like a pointy nose and you're cutting through the snow, it's like a knife. If you think of, a more blunter nose shape, that's more, I would say, like a spoon, and it's pushing the snow. It's not slicing through the snow. One isn't better than the other. It's just a matter of where you ride and the terrain you ride and what you like.
But there's a lot of other elements that come into play. Where your feet are located on the board, the length of the tail all of a sudden starts to make a difference. Materials, the core, the fiberglass, side cut, at the flex of the board. It really comes down to what size complements your weight, your performance, and what you're looking for that board to do.
Powder's a pretty broad term. If you're in 6 inches of new snow, you're not so worried about float. You're more worried about turning and quickness.
Going to Japan, I think you'd probably want something pretty directional, big nose, short-tailed board, so you can cut around in and out of the trees. And then for something like Alaska, you want that big board. And you want tail, because that's where all your control is when you're on those steep mountains.
It's important to have a board that I am very much in control of. I don't want the board to kind of be in control of me.
Tried to have something for everybody, and we have sizes for everybody as well.
We decided for this year to move away from men's models and women's models and really just release a line that spoke to snowboarders in general.
A snowboarder has no idea what gender you are. It has no idea if you subscribe to gender.
It's not super fun when you see a board that the guys are riding that you can't ride. Having unisex boards opens up the world for me.
The girls have so many options now, and I also think some of the guys that are smaller have a lot more options as well.
That's where the quiver comes in. There is a perfect board for every day, but it's hard to have them all. I always tell people, go demo them, see what you like. I can't tell you what you like. You know, you gotta figure it out for yourself, and it takes time. And the more you start to really understand what you like, the more you can really feel it.
If you look at all past family tree lines, we do change it up, and sometimes we get rid of really good riding boards. And people are, why'd you get rid of that board? And just to make another really good riding board. I think the future of it is exploring 3D shapes.
It opens up the opportunity for float like you've never felt before. We're also continuing to look at what we can do on being more inclusive for all sizes and all different types of riders.
Snowboarding is progressing year after year, and it's really our job to keep our eyes and ears open, watch what's happening around the world, and ultimately design product that people want to put under their feet.